Right, Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everyone. Can you guys hear me well?
Yes, can.
Okay, so we resume our lecture today. So last week, what you guys have gone through is research proposal or module 6. So in module 6, research proposal is about how to prepare a research proposal. Yeah, so this one you can relate with your FYP proposal later. So just to recap important points of a research proposal. So you guys have answered, right? What is a research proposal? And then the main contents of a research proposal, there should be a title or topic, and then the summary or abstract. Yeah, it's the same thing, but sometimes the terms are used interchangeably. Sometimes people use summary, sometimes people use abstract, but they refer to the same section. And then introduction. This one is supposed to be all this stuff there, these points is the introduction section. Yeah. So a summary is not a chapter yet, it's just a section. Yeah. So we start the proposal with the introduction, the chapter. So you number the introduction section chapter as chapter number 1 or 1.0 introduction. Okay. So in the introduction, there should be before that there should be some background, like just to introduce what your research is all about. I mean the field. Yeah. So before that, in the intro, before you go to the problem statement, there should be some background, which is normally written in one paragraph. Yeah. And then after you introduce the subject matter, then you slowly go into the problem statement, the next paragraph. Yeah. So the next paragraph is problem statement, or problem statement can be written in two paragraphs for FYP, 2 to 3, maybe two is fine, as long as you have all the main points of a problem statement. Okay. So after the problem statement is objectives. Yeah. So you say that the problem of the research is no one has reported yet certain aspects. So that is the thing that you want to focus on. So that's how you move to the objectives, right? Then after that, you move to the hypothesis, saying that what you believe will result in from the work, from the proposed work. Okay, so if you see, there should be continuity from the intro, from the background, right? And then move to the problem statement. And when you say there is a problem, there is a need to study. So that is when you move to the objectives, right? And then finally to the hypothesis. So that is actually meant by coherency. Remember this word? Continuity. Okay, continuity. From one point to another, from one paragraph to another, from one sentence to another. Okay. Right. The second chapter is literature review. This should be numbered as 2.0. Yeah. So in the literature review is a section where you elaborate further. Okay, so what is the difference between the intro and the literature review chapter? For the intro chapter, you don't elaborate in detail the background. Of course, you talk about the background, but in a very brief manner. Okay, so you should explain more or elaborate more in the literature review, where you put all the comparison and comparison of all the articles or matters that you have read. Okay, that's literature review. And it's a very important chapter, not to say that others are not important, but literature review is actually the foundation. Yeah, is a foundation of your understanding about the research that you want to do. Okay. And then research methodology. So this one is referring to proposal, remember? So it means that you are proposing the methods or materials that you want to use for the proposed research, right? So this is chapter 3, chapter 3, this is 2. So in the research method, you need to include all the information about whatever the methods that you think are suitable or need to be conducted. Okay, so how you know all the methods? From your reading, from the literature reading. So from the literature review, I mean the process of reading, reviewing, is not just about knowing the foundation or knowing the basics or background of the research, but also to find the methods. Okay, so for example, what are the methods need to be applied for protein analysis, for certain enzyme analysis. So that is to be obtained from literature review. But the information, you have to put it in the research method, yeah, in terms of the details, how much you add this to that, you know, how you do the methods and so on. It needs to be mentioned in the research methodology. Or this one is materials and methods. Materials and methods. It's the same thing, the name of the chapter. And since this one is a research proposal, means that you haven't done yet the things, right? So the tense, you know, the tense, you need to use future tense. Okay, I asked a question, right? I give 4 different sentences with different tenses, right? And which one is correct for to be included in the materials and methods section or chapter 4 research proposal? So it should be future tense. So for example, the protein analysis will be based on, right? Will be based on Bradford essay, right? So the future tense is here, right? Will be. So this is for proposal. So for later for research for the thesis, it should be past tense, right? Because you have done the thing. So this one is you are not yet into the lab. So that's why it needs to be future tense. Okay. So is wrong. Was is wrong. Okay. And I think the other sentence I put like plural, which is wrong. You should practice the right grammar. Okay. This one is singular. It should be singular noun, a singular verb. Okay. But in this case, it should be future tense. So please take note. Of course, when you read from the articles will use past tense because they have done the things. But you have to change the rephrase it to future tense. Okay, for proposal. Right, and then after research method is research schedule. Research schedule means you put the Gantt chart. Okay, that is actually to give an overview about the plan, the research plan, when you will do the first stage, when we will do the second, and so on. Okay, so you should include for FYP from semester 1, as from FYP 1 until the end of FYP 2, all the plans, starting from literature review stage and then until what? So the process of reading is called literature review. So you need to put one of the activities during FYP as literature review, especially in FYP 1. Okay, research schedule. Yeah, Gantt chart is normally Gantt chart. Okay, budgeting is only for other types of research, not for FYP. So in your FYP proposal, you don't have to include the budget section. Okay, so the purpose of budgeting for other types of research proposals, like if let's say I want to apply for a research grant, like me, I have already the degree, so I don't need to do thesis-based research. Means that if I do research, it's not for FYP, it's not for MSc, it's not for PhD. Okay, it's for independent research. Okay, so I need to have a fund because the research should be much bigger. So in order to convince the funder, those who sponsor the research, I have to explain to them what are needed, right? And I have to present it in the form of budget, proposed budget. So that is the purpose of it. But in your case, you don't have to worry about it, but it's good for you to know about it. The purpose of the budget is to convince the funder how much is the research and your justification, why you need like 100,000. So if you elaborate in detail, like 5,000 is needed for chemicals, another 10,000 is for this equipment. So the funder will be clear about the needs of that amount, okay? And then expected outcomes, normally we put expected outcomes. Normally in FYP, I'm not sure the order. Normally expected outcome come first before research schedule, but later you can check. But those are the things that need to be included in a research proposal. Okay, so expected outcomes, it's a section where it states what you will get from the research, the proposed research. Okay, so it should be tallied. Tallied means it should match your objectives. Okay, so you mentioned about objectives in the intro chapter. So if let's say you say that the objectives, there are 2 objectives of the research. So of course, for the expected outcomes, you should get 2 main results. Okay, so that's how it should be matched. It should be tallied. Yeah. So when you write this section, please refer back to your objectives. Sometimes you forgot, what you have written in the intro chapter. So refer to your objectives. And basically, the easiest way to write the expected outcomes is to answer the objective. So normally, we write objectives. We put that the objectives of this research are, for example, and then you put like bullet form or number form. Yeah, number 1 is to investigate the effect of glucose concentration on lacase production, for example. Yeah, so the point is glucose concentration. So your expected outcome will be your expected outcome will be it is expected that by the end of this research, the effect of glucose concentration on lacase production will be better understood, will be investigated. So it's actually to answer the objective, okay? But you have to elaborate more in this section. It's not just about one single sentence for each objective, but you should put also like what are the implication of it. So it is a section where you put the expected outcomes and also the implication of the research from a broader picture. Okay, maybe first, let's say the objective is about glucose concentration. Second is about the effect of yeast extract concentration. Okay, so these 2 things are related to media. Yeah, media means the food. So you will say that in the expected outcomes, in the chapter, you should also say that the implication of this, the research will give useful information about media optimization in general, yeah, for the for optimal production of lacase, something like that. Okay, so it should answer your objective and it should give the implication of the research. And then references and bibliography. So it's the last section where you list down all the references that you have used throughout your writing. Yeah. So this one is what we call full citation. When you write in the sentence, in the text, that one is called in-text citation. Okay, something like Lim et al. 2011. So that kind of things is called in text because it is in the text, and it is citation. You cite the author. Okay, so one of the common mistakes students do in references is you write you cite in the text, but you don't put it in the list of references. Means you miss it. Yeah. So lecturers will check one by one. Yeah? Like me, I will check, from the text and the references whether the references are listed or not. So if you don't write it, if you don't list it, you miss it out. So you will get the marks deducted for that. Yeah? So references is the easiest way section for you to get full marks, because for FYP there are marks for each of these sections. Okay, so for the summary, for the introduction, for the literature review, materials method, and until references. So there are marks for that. References is 10 marks. The rest are a little bit higher. I guess intro is, not sure about it, 15%, but references is 10 marks. So you can easily get that 10 marks if you don't do any mistakes, like you list it down and then you write it according to the correct format, okay, the references. So yeah, so make sure you don't do mistakes in the references. Huh? Okay, I will not go into detail because I think I have the recorded lecture. So please go by yourself. Yeah. So this is just to recap what you guys have listened to my recorded lectures. Okay. So today we are going into the 7th module, which is writing a thesis. Okay, writing a thesis. Yeah, so there is a quote: almost all good writing begins with terrible first efforts. You need to start somewhere. Okay, remember when I give you an exercise about rephrasing? Is it difficult for you to construct one sentence by not copying and pasting from the sources? Means that you have to change the sentence in different way so that it doesn't match. Is it hard or is it easy? Guys? Hello? Are you with me? Depends. Okay. So maybe the sentence is not yet difficult. Okay. But who feels that it is hard for you to rephrase? Means that you cannot use the same style of sentences as indicated in the source. You have to change it. Is it hard? I feel it's hard. Don't worry if you feel that it's hard. There's nothing wrong with it. Why no one answer me? Are you with me? Say something, okay? Please, I don't know what you feel. So I need to get your response. A bit lengthy. Okay. What is the difficulty? Vocabularies, is it? Like you don't want to repeat the same word?
Yes, the
Vocabularies, and then in terms of to extract the point and grammar. Okay, you should understand, of course, the grammar is an English thing, right? But I have to also touch about it because it's about writing, although I'm not an English lecturer. But I have to teach some, I mean, I have to correct your apa ni, your grammar somehow. Okay? Because I'm teaching this scientific communication, and it's part of the communication. If without good grammar, is not going to be effectively communicated. Okay, what else the difficulty? Okay, maybe it's not much. Maybe I just give you 2 sentences, right? But I would say if I were you, I would feel it's actually difficult to construct or to rephrase, because at your stage, that is actually the starting point for you to write. Okay. But after some time, after you practice a lot to rephrase, because that is just, I give you 2 sentences, but actually in the FYP proposal, you have to write the whole thing by yourself. You have to construct sentences by yourself. You read from the articles, of course, but you cannot copy and paste the same sentence. Okay, the points, of course, certain points, you have to maintain the points. You have to, but in a way that is different. That is actually the challenges. And also the vocabularies, right? Because sometimes you do not want to use, for example, like applications, and you have to change it to something else so that it doesn't match. When you check in the Turnitin, it doesn't detect it as similar. So that's the difficulties, right? So it needs practice, so that's why I like this quote. Almost all good writings begin with terrible first efforts. So that is an example of your first efforts, right? You need to start somewhere. Even though you feel it's difficult, but you need to practice. Okay, and it's just the beginning. For the FYP proposal, you have to write everything by your own. So the whole chapters by your own. You have to rephrase. So that's why you need to practice. So there is tips and tricks for it. I mentioned about Grammarly. Did I mention about a software? So you say your friends say here, the difficulty is the extract the point. Yes, the grammar, right? The English. Okay, sometimes you might not realize that you did grammatical errors. Okay, so you can use certain tools, Grammarly. Okay, if you don't yet download it from the internet, please download and install in your PC. Yeah, so it's a web-based software, and it's free. Of course, there is a premium version, but you can adopt for the free version, and it's, I think, fine. For your application, it's fine to just use the free version. So what this Grammarly does, it will detect the grammatical errors. For example, you forgot the S, you forgot, it will know that the sentence has singular or plural verb, plural noun, sorry. So it will, if let's say you wrongly put the verb, right, for that noun, it will highlight it in red. So that how you can get notice and correct your sentences. But Grammarly is just a software, so it just detects the grammars, but in terms of the structure, the sentence structure, it cannot detect perfectly whether or not the sentence is correctly constructed. Okay, that one needs human interpretation or human evaluation still. Okay, although if the software checks everything is fine, there is no errors, but it doesn't mean that the structure is correct. You know what I mean? So that's the thing that you have to learn by yourself, okay? The English, how to construct good sentence. Okay, to extract the point, yeah, that's correct. Because I noticed some of the sentences written by you when I just go through, yeah. You misplace the points, like it means that you don't understand the content first. So the key thing in order to put the points correctly is you understand the sentence or the message in the sentence. Okay, you know what is meant. When it says that, I forgot the sentence, what lay cases are, what last time, the sentence, you should understand what the sentence are first before you rephrase. Okay, that is quite logical, right? Before you communicate to others, you have to understand what you read. Okay, so before you rephrase it, make sure you understand first. Understanding is the key, because otherwise, if you just like rephrase blindly, the points will be scattered. You just like for the purpose of changing the style of the sentence, but the points are not placed correctly. Okay, it's supposed to be late cases. The applications is, for example, bioremediation, but you misunderstood bioremediation is not related to late case and you put it somewhere else. So that is because you don't understand the sentence or the points in the first place. Okay, so the key thing is to understand first the points communicated by the sentence, and only then you rephrase. Okay. And then for the scientific terms, okay, so that one is no choice. You cannot actually change, for example, the name of the enzyme. Late cases, you still have to use the same name, right, from the source. So that is fine. That is understood. Okay, and Turnitin, it will not it will detect the similarity, but if let's say, for example, late cases, of course, there are so many sources that have the word, the same term, late case. Yeah, the term is used widely. But why the Turnitin will not detect if, let's say, the whole sentence, other words are not similar to the source, it will not detect late cases. Or maybe sometimes there is an error that it will detect, but actually it will not detect late cases as the similarity. Otherwise, your report will be 100% because all the words are actually, big use. But what differentiates is actually the sentence structure. Okay, so the way how you construct and the word after that. If let's say it is like 4 or 5 words that are similar. 4 or 5 words that are consecutively similar means that, similar to the source. So that will be detected. That will be that is how the software detects. So if let's say you use the cases, but then you put other words, so that's why other terms that are not scientific, for example, application. What else? I forgot the sentence. Things like, you can find other words, applications you can change to users, yeah, for example. So try to use different terms for that non-science words, okay, words that you can replace. Yeah? So you try as much as possible not to repeat the same word. So that is to reduce the similarity. Okay, that's the how you rephrase the tips and tricks. And then if let's say maybe your vocab is you feel that your vocab is not good, means that you are limited of words. You do not know what are other words that can be used to replace applications. Then you just Google application, or maybe you just in the Microsoft Word you can right click and there is an option for synonym, something like that. So you can find other words. You can use that. Okay. So that's how you replace all the non-scientific terms. Okay, don't repeat it because it will contribute to the similarity. And when we judge the similarity, right? So for the FYP is 20%. That is the maximum similarity. So why we still allow some rooms for similarity? Because of some of the things that sometimes the units or maybe scientific terms that cannot be avoided. You have to write it in 3 words consecutively, so that things will be detected. But Turnitin is just a software. It's like a computer software, so it just detects. It is programmed to detect the similarity, and then it will just detect everything. Okay, so when, like, let's say the report is evaluated by human, okay, like me, if let's say if your similarity is 19%, okay, it's very close to the maximum, but I would not say that that yet until I evaluate what are those things that are similar. Okay, so if let's say this 19% is a combination of all the scattered here and there is no one sentence that is completely similar, I can still accept 90% is okay. Okay, what I mean by you cannot, there is a case where students have one sentence that is completely similar to the source. That is totally wrong. Okay, and not even 100%. I mean, if you have 50% also, it's not advisable. So that's why I said for any terms that you can still find an alternative for the synonyms, please change in order to reduce the similarity. Okay, right. So I don't have an example of, but there is an example of students FYP that have what I mean by 100% similarity for one sentence is the whole thing in the sentences are copied and pasted, means from the original. Okay, that is if let's say you got like maybe 10%, okay, 10% similarity index, it looks like much lower than 19. But if let's say in this 10% report, there is one sentence that is completely similar, that is called plagiarism. Okay, that is plagiarism, although it's just 10% in total. So you should be careful with that. Huh? We don't want the issue of plagiarism. Plagiarism, you know, right? Plagiarism is you copy and paste. That's one thing. Another thing is you take the ideas, you rephrase it, but you don't put the citation. That is also called plagiarism. There are two types of plagiarism. Okay. All right. So let's have a look at the points that we're going to look at in this module. Okay. So this module is about writing a thesis. So before you start the research, I mean research in the lab, okay, so you have to write proposal, isn't it? Research proposal. Okay, so once you have the research proposal, you have the presentation and it's evaluated by the examiner, then you start the research in the lab. So once you start the research in the lab, means you collect the results, yeah, you do all the things that you propose, right? And after you complete the research, you have to write thesis. You have to write a thesis. I mean, this is for FYP, for master, or PhD. Yeah, this is bachelor's degree, bachelor's degree for FYP, and all of these are called thesis-based research, isn't it? Because at the end you have to write a thesis. Okay. So this thesis is another document that you have to prepare in your FYP, apart from research proposal. So altogether, there are two written documents. Okay, thesis. So we are going to look at thesis, and the structure. There are similarities. There are differences compared to the research proposal. Okay, so see the structure of the thesis here. So it consists of abstract, which is similar, but the content is not similar. The section is similar, but the content is not similar. I'll discuss later what's the differences, but just go through first. What are the chapters? Intro is similar. Literature review, yeah, both proposals and thesis have literature review. Materials and methods. Okay, now there are two. I mean, both have materials and methods, but the way how you write it is different, although it's similar. The same goes to for the abstract. The way how you write the content is different for thesis. So if the proposal you use future tense, but for the thesis you use past tense, right? Because it has been done, the word past tense. Okay, and then here, this is the differences. In the thesis, you should have results and discussion. Okay, so this one normally it can be either results chapter by its own, okay, means that chapter 4 results, chapter 5 is discussion, and also it can be joined as results and discussion. The difference is that let's say like this one, you have chapter 4 as the results and discussion. You combine it. It can be either way, okay. But the preferred way is results and discussion. I mean, you combine it. Means that once you present the results, you discuss it directly, which is much easier actually for you and for the examiner. Okay. There is a question here. To rephrase any sentences, there's a lot of software in Google to use. Why we need to spend a lot of... Okay, that's a good question. I don't really prefer to introduce you guys to those softwares because I need you to build your own foundation in... It's part of English. Okay, it's very essential to know by yourself how to construct good sentences. Like if you depend too much on the software, like Grammarly is good, but then this one is what you mean here is the software to rephrase. Or maybe you can use, but you yourself have to understand why it should be this way, it should be that way. Okay, because I think foundation is very important. You cannot expect the software to do everything because, as I said, software is just a computer tool. You know, it's designed to... It's not perfectly... It will do... It works, but it's not gonna be that 100% perfect. It still needs some human evaluation. Okay, same as if you see the Turnitin. So why it needs to be evaluated by human at the end? Because, you know, like me, I understand like some of the scientific terms cannot be replaced, but Turnitin does not understand that, something like that. And if you understand, if let's say you you build your own foundation in rephrasing, right? Because that is a skill that you need to have, the writing skill, and you combine it with those software, okay? So provided that you understand the skill and then you use the software. So in some instances, if, let's say the software doesn't do it work perfectly, you know what I mean? Like sometimes, you know, the things are not that... It's actually not what you intend to express. You can correct it. Okay, so that is the benefits if you have the foundation. But if you rely on the software entirely, then you do not know actually where's the mistakes. And actually it's not... I mean, the message is not that 100% effectively communicated. Okay, yeah. So yes, it's good to use that kind of software. I mean, to look for software for rephrasing. What your friend mean here is the software for rephrasing, not the Grammarly. Grammarly is the grammar just now. Yeah. Okay, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't really want to introduce that. I know the existence of that software, but I need you guys to, as I said, to build your foundation, your own understanding. For example, like material method, you should use past tense, future tense. Like in that case, the software cannot do it for you, you know. So it will just like write whatever that is correct, but it doesn't understand that proposal should use future tense. That's the thing that you have to know about yourself, because the computer software is still computer based, so it is not 100% equal to the human's judgment or evaluation. Okay. Results and discussion. Okay, and the last chapter is conclusions and future work. So it's different from proposal, where you never have conclusion, because you don't have anything to do yet. You don't have anything to conclude yet. So what you have in the research proposal is expected outcomes, what you expect to achieve. Okay, but in the research thesis, you should have this, yeah, conclusion and future works, because you have done the work and you can conclude from your results. What are the main findings, and future work refers to the recommendation. Okay, so when you do something in the lab later, there are so many things for you to reflect at the end. So because you cannot do everything in FYP because of the time frame, and also the time frame normally. So you can say that, okay, maybe in the future we can continue with this. Okay, how to know what kind of recommendations is based on your own reflection. It's not from literature review. Okay, so once you do the work, you would have ideas. What should be improved? What should be done? What should be continued? What should be added? Yeah? So recommendation means improvement. It should also be improvement. and then addition or extension of the work. Okay. So that's based on your own ideas. All right, and then the last one is references. References is the same, how you list down all the references that you use for the citation. Okay, so those are the things that are some of the similarities and differences compared to the research proposal. Okay, let's have a look at the introduction. Here is the definition of thesis. I think I have talked about it, thesis-based research, all right? Thesis-based research means you do the research and at the end you produce a thesis. Yeah, so this one could be FYP for the bachelor's degree, and then MSc if you are doing a research mode, because there is also MSc by coursework. Yeah, means that you are taking examinations, but for MSc by research, you do research entirely for 2 years. So that is thesis-based research. And another one is PhD. Yeah? So this one is according to the level that you go for bachelor degree first, MSc, and then PhD. Okay. So a thesis is broadly defined as a long written dissertation or report based on original research by a student or a scholar and presented for postgrad degree, MSc or PhD. Okay. So actually this one is postgrad. Yeah? You are now undergrad. Undergrad is FYP is undergrad. So take note on the words dissertation. Yeah, dissertation means it's the same thing. It's thesis. Some institutions use the word dissertation. Some use the word thesis. Okay. Report written undergrad. This is for FYP. Minimum originality. Yeah, this one is 20% only, maximum. Maximum similarity. With minimum. Okay. What means that? Based on limited scope of research and duration, this thesis produced at bachelor level has also been referred to final year project, graduating project paper, or scholarly exercise. So in our context, we use FYP, final year project. Why and when to write thesis? Because it's part of the requirements to graduate. FYP, FYP 1 has 3 credit hours, FYP 2 has 5 credit hours. FYP 1, 3, FYP 2, 5. So altogether you have 8 credit hours. So without completing these credit hours, 8 credit hours, you cannot graduate, right? And actually it's the easiest way for you to score actually FYP because it's not the evaluation is not based on grades, it's not based on exams like other courses. And if you do works properly, write reports properly, you can easily get A, because the number of people who got A normally in a semester for both FYPs is very high, like maybe 70% got A minus. So rugi lah kalau you tak take the opportunity to score, because these 8 credit hours will change your CGPA a lot. Yeah? So if you got A for both FYP 1 and FYP 2, you can dramatically improve your CGPA. Yeah? It will affect the CGPA. And then to obtain or harness a scholarly status. Okay, yeah, of course, if you do research, MSc, PhD, right? So PhD is the highest level. So you will get the title doctor. Doctor, if you have a PhD degree, you are called doctor after you graduate, yeah? Because it's not an easy degree. Yeah? It's not an easy degree. So that's why people give that title. Yeah? So that is this one, scholarly status. Yeah? The ingredients to write a thesis: data from good and adequate research works, proper structure and suitable thesis format, good writing ability, and good and helpful supervisor. Okay, see, this one is from good science. That's why we talk about doing a good research, right? In some of the earliest topics, good science. So we are in science, so I said good science or good research. So the basics of research, you should do in stages, you should do in systematic, yeah? So that will give you good results, good data, because those good data are the one that you want to write, you want to communicate, yeah? So all of those things are important. Proper structure and suitable thesis format, okay? Thesis has its format, yeah, as what I introduced just now. Good writing ability, okay? So this is what I emphasize, yeah? The foundation of writing. Although you are a scientist, you cannot ignore the importance of English because you communicate the things in English. And of course, it involves writing skill, okay? That's why I said you cannot rely on the software entirely. You can use it, I don't say that the Grammarly is not suitable, the rephrasing software is not needed, but you should develop your own understanding about the writing skill, okay? And then supervisor, okay, supervisor is a very important aspect as well for research because you are guided. You are not yet an independent researcher, so you need to get the guidance from the supervisor, check with your supervisor whether your results are okay or not, your proposals are okay or not. Okay. Right. This is just an introduction about master and PhD thesis. So master is the level of the undergrad after bachelor's degree. Okay. So as I said just now, there are two types of master: master by research, master by coursework. Coursework means it's the same like the degree level, whereby you have to take several courses, sit for exam, and then do a small project at the end. Okay. Another type of master format is master by research, whereby you do research for 2 years and produce thesis at the end. Okay. So each of that has its own benefits, but if you want to have more experience in the lab doing research, master by research is much better than master by coursework. Yeah? Right. For the PhD, is a research base. It's entirely research based, means that you do research for 4 years. Yeah? So you can see the duration is longer, means there are more things to be investigated, much deeper. Yeah? So you will know a lot more after you do the PhD or after you do master, if you want to compare with the FYP. So you will see whether you like research or not in FYP. So if you like research, then after your degree, you should make good decision whether you want to further your study or whether you want to work. Yeah? Because if let's say you work, if let's say you further master or PhD later, and you are doing research under a grant means like your supervisor has applied for a grant, and means that if you do master under that grant, you will be paid monthly. So it means that you are considered as working. So that's why the master candidate, PhD candidate, they are considered as working. Although they are still called students, master student, PhD student, but they are a bit different from undergrad. They are considered as working because they receive monthly allowance because they already have degree, so they are entitled to receiving the salary. Okay, so once you graduate later, it doesn't mean that you have to work. It doesn't mean that working only considered for a profession that you're working with a company, you're working with a government agency. If you're doing master, you receive the salary, you are considered as working. Okay, although in other words, you're also a student. But that's the difference between undergrad and postgrad. Undergraduate and postgraduate. Okay. So let's have a look at the structure of the thesis. The first section is abstract. Okay, the first section is abstract. So what is the difference between abstract for a proposal and abstract for a thesis. Yeah? So proposal and then thesis. The section is, you should have the section for both documents, but the content is different because in the proposal, what you should have, 1 or 2 sentences about the background. Of course, you cannot jump directly to the objective. You should mention about some of the background. Yeah? Let's say late cases are enzymes that are so and so. You just introduce, yeah. And then you mention the problem statement briefly, like in 1 or 2 sentences. So because the abstract, the limit is only 300 words, right? Or if you want to imagine, an A4 page is just half of the A4 page. Yeah. So if you go like 1 page, it's not correct. It's more than 300 words. So you should limit that the length should be just half of the A4 page. Yeah? Okay, this one for this is also the background is also needed. Yeah. Problem statement is also needed, 1 or 2 sentences. And then you should say the objective, the aim or objective in 1 or 2 sentences. This is also the same, aim and objective. You should also state it in the thesis abstract. But here, you would say the methods. Okay, it's still the same. In brief, in brief. You cannot put everything, but you just highlight the main method that you're going to use. Okay, and after this, for the methods is expected outcomes. Expected outcomes mean that you just state in 1 sentence in the abstract what you expect to get. It is expected by the end of this research, certain things will be achieved. Yeah. This is to be included in the abstract. Yeah? Although that these are sections, a chapter that you should put in the proposal or in the thesis. But what I mean here is in brief, in just 1 or 2 sentences. Okay, and yes, implication maybe at the end. Okay, but for the thesis, for the abstract, you have to put the results. This is the difference between the proposal. In the proposal, you don't have results yet, right? But in the thesis, you have the results. Okay, and you have the 1 sentence that to conclude, maybe, or to say the implication of the work, yeah? The significance of the work. Or this is results could be 1 or 2 sentences, depends on your result. And finally is the one final remark, or to say that the implication. Yeah. So these are the things that should be included in the abstract. Okay, so the difference lies in this part. Also this part. Okay, thesis doesn't have expected outcomes anymore because you have already the result. Okay, so you should replace it with the result. So that's the difference. Okay, I don't go word by word, but I just want to highlight a few things. It's a condensed version of a longer piece of writing. Yeah, so that's why you have all of the important parts, yeah, in a very brief form. Yeah? Condensed version of a longer piece of writing. It should have some introduction, like this is actually covers the introduction, methods, in brief, yeah, results in brief, and so everything is in brief, yeah, because you want to achieve these 300 words or half of the A4 page. Yeah? Okay, self-contained short, powerful statement that describes a larger work. Yeah, it's a very important section because it's a first impression section. Whenever people read any documents, abstract is not just in proposal, it's not just in thesis, it's also written in article or in any other documents. It's a section that describes everything. Yeah, so it's the first section to be read before people go through your results, before people go through your literature review. They just read your abstract. Okay, so it's a very important section. So having said that, it should be written carefully and concisely. You know, concise. Concise means it should have everything in a brief manner, but all the points are there. Yeah, the concise. Should not contain any literature review about your project. Okay, this is a very important thing because in abstract, there shouldn't be any citation. No citation is allowed in the abstract. So please remember this. Citation means all this at all, yeah, the in-text citation, there's no such thing because all the things here, you should actually write by yourself. It comes from your own research, okay? Or in-depth details. Okay, materials and methods should be stated in brief. In brief means in a simple manner, right? But not in depth. Okay, why? Because you have the section, the materials and methods section that you should explain in detail. So here you can just say that the method, the name of the method for whatsoever analysis will be conducted. Yeah? You just mention the name of the method, but you don't put everything, the details about how you do the method, what's the condition, and so on. An abstract is only half a page, yeah? Okay, I've mentioned about that. Two most important features, selecting and indexing. Selecting a good and one. Okay. This is what is meant by quick references. Like people will read abstract to get quick information. And abstracts are also those that are inserted in the search system. For example, if let's say you search for something that will, search for thesis in the library website, okay, what comes out will the abstract first. So that's why it's very important. Okay, it allows readers to quickly decide whether they want or need to read the report. Yeah, readers to understand a text by acting a pre-reading outline. Right, allows supervisor to review technical words without bogged down in the details of the whole thesis. Okay, so enough to say that is the first section to be read. It's the most important of first impression section. Okay, so this one is a example of abstract for PhD thesis. I don't want to focus on that, so let's focus on the FYP, which is much simpler and suitable for your context later. Okay, let's have a look at what are the important points here. So what I meant by background, brief method. So see, so the first sentence, if you see here, Lakis is a multi-purpose enzyme that has potentially wide advantages in various industries. Okay, so this one, why it doesn't need citation? This one is the introductory or it describes the background of your research, whereby people will know that this research will be about Lakis. Okay. Lakis is a multi-purpose. Okay. So this is actually considered as a general statement. General statement. So that's why it doesn't need citation. Never put citation. You can see that there's no citation inside here. There is no what at all 2019. There's no such thing. If you do that, it's wrong. Okay. So this is a general statement. Lakis is a multi-purpose enzyme that has potentially wide advantages in various industries. So if you go into in depth in your research later, you will know that what is meant by general statement. You know, Lakis is an enzyme that has advantage. You don't need citation for that. Yeah. So that's why in this case, this one doesn't need. It can stand by its own. If you rephrase it, provided that you rephrase it. For example, in science also, like E. coli is a gram-negative bacterium. You don't actually need to cite it, because it's a general statement, everyone knows about it. For example, if you use the word at the unit centimeter for length, for measuring the length, it's understood by everyone. So you don't have to put the source of who mentioned about it. So there are things that you have to differentiate. They are general statement. They are specific statement. General statement, you don't need to cite. Okay. What else? There are a few things. Once you are into the whatever the field that you are later in your FYP, you will know that what are the general statement, what are the things that you need to understand by everyone should understand, and you don't need to cite it, and what should be cited. Okay. Okay, so the first statement here is the general statement or the background that describes the research, right? Describe lay case. However, okay, the second sentence, however, with the increasing demand of lay case, there is a need for the development of recombinant lay case production. Okay, so this is what actually, this is a statement, is a problem statement where you start to go into the problem. Okay? So means here, it emphasizes the recombinant lay case production. Okay, you know that for microorganisms, they are wild type, they are recombinant, right? The types. Okay, this one I don't have to, you should know by yourself lah. This is in biotech, you should know it. Recombinant and wild. Wild type means natural. Recombinant are those that genetically modified. Okay, so if you genetically modify microorganism in order to allow that microbe to produce certain product or certain protein, okay, the protein produced is called recombinant protein. Okay, for example, in this case, it's lay case. So there are lay cases that are produced by wild organism. There are lay cases that are produced by recombinant organism. Okay, wild or natural organism means that fungi that you don't actually alter anything, but they produce lay cases. Okay, that are wild type. But those that are produced by recombinant organism means that certain gene that produce lay cases, they are inserted into, for example, certain hosts like Pichia pastoris, right? They put it into that Pichia pastoris, and that Pichia is called recombinant Pichia pastoris. It's a recombinant organism. And the product, which is the lay case, is called recombinant lay case. Okay? So I just want to explain in this context what is meant by this production of recombinant lay case. So whatever the reason why people go for recombinant is because, for example, lay case, of course there are natural lay cases produced by wild organism, but the production is very low. We cannot rely on wild type alone because lay cases are important enzymes. You know, it has wide applications. So in order to boost, to increase the production, we need to develop the recombinant organisms to produce lay case in order to increase the production. Okay, so that is actually the problem. The increasing demand of lay case, and to say that here there is a need for the recombinant lay case production. So that is the problem statement. I want to explain that is a problem statement, but you should understand first what the context is in this case. So that is how you go from one point to another, from the first sentence to the second sentence. You talk about lay case, and then you talk about the increasing demand of lay case needs recombinant lay case production, right? Okay, this is another. Pichia is one of the promising hosts, right? Okay, this is just to introduce it. So this is, in this study, the production of lay case was investigated. The effect of, so this is actually to show the objective, aim or objective, okay, by varying the effect of the glycerol. Okay? That is the factor to be investigated. Right, so this is to show some methods. This is methods in brief. Okay, you say that it is in the shake flask fermentation from what range? 0.5 to 3 glycerol. Okay, so this is something, a brief information about the methods, right? So this is results from here. Okay, because this one is a thesis, it has the results. the optimal concentration was found to be so and so. Yeah. So in just one sentence or maybe two. Yeah. Right. And the last one is the conclusion or the implication. Implication. Okay. So that's the way how you write the things briefly for an abstract. Okay. So apart from that, you also have to put the keywords. Keywords is actually to facilitate the search. So if let's say people search for, if you put all of those things, keywords related to your abstract, okay, so whenever people search for leakage, your abstract will come up in the search. So that is the purpose of the keywords. All right, so that's abstract. The second section is introduction. Introduction is a section that is quite similar to proposal. I don't have to elaborate too much here. It's quite similar, whereby the first paragraph, first to second, normally one or two paragraph, you should put about the background of your study, background of the research. Okay, so see, in the abstract just now, your background is only described by one sentence. Leakases are enzymes that have wide applications, right? But in the introduction, you should put it in one paragraph at least. I mean, you should elaborate more. So what are the applications, examples of application? Okay, so that's the elaboration. So 1 to 2 paragraph is on the background. 2 paragraph for the problem statement, 1 or 2 paragraph. Okay. I mean, the following paragraph should be on problem statement in detail. Okay. And then only then you go into aims and objectives. Okay. So it's the same as the proposal, the content. It doesn't vary that much. Huh? Okay, read by yourself. Yeah. Okay, so in the introduction here, you can start citing. Okay, it's only in the abstract that you cannot cite. But in the intro, of course, you have to cite because the information comes from your reading. Yeah? Okay, just keep the explanation here because I think you have understood that from the previous module. Literature review is a section where you write your review, write your what you have read. So you have to put it in a way that is more organized. You divide it into subsection. Okay, this one is normally chapter 2. So you can put 2.1, for example, lay cases. Okay, you describe all the lay cases. 2.2 is about maybe the Pichia pastoris, because I mean, the example just now, this is the host, okay, fermentation. So the way how you write it, you divide it into subsections, subchapters, so that you can write specific to that section, okay? So the way how you construct it, I mean, how to determine the subchapters depends on your topic, okay? Right. And also you can so it's a section where you compare and contrast different articles. Yeah, you say this one said what, this one said what, and then you have to judge. You have to mention why. I mean, what is the differences? What are the similarities? Okay, it's quite similar to proposal. It's not that really much different. The content is quite similar. Okay. And here is where you have to cite a lot because it's where you refer to the points mentioned by previous researchers. So these are examples of citation. Okay, so how to know which one to be used? It depends, because in writing we do not want something to be so boring, right? So a similar way. So you have to vary it. Sometimes you say you cite it in the beginning of the sentence. Like for example, Nordi 1990 reported that the population of so and so. Okay, you can also say as has been. It's not as has been, as what reported. as what reported by Nordin. Okay, that's another way how you can vary your sentence. Yeah. So if the original sentence say that Nordin reported that, so you don't have to repeat the same way, because otherwise the similarity will be the same, right? So you change it a little bit, as what reported by Nordin, or you can put also by the third example at the end. You put you mention all the points first, and then you put the citation at the end. This one is here, this one is here. And then the fourth style, based on the report published by Nordin. Okay, and this is single author. You can also, let's say it's Nordin here, it's Nordin at all. You can also use the word Nordin instead. If let's say you want to vary it and you want to make it something different from the source, you can also say Nordin and co-workers. This is the usual term used for citing. Yes, co-workers. 2019, for example, reported that. Okay, or you can also, this is actually the same as Nordin et al. 2019 reported that. Is actually similar, okay, but it's just a matter of different style. Okay, but you can use this term and co-workers. This is another way, based on the report published. Yeah. So the way how you choose it is, it depends. That's the art of writing. Okay. You need to make thesis interesting. Yeah. Minimize the use of same style of referencing throughout your thesis. Yeah. So you don't have to say reported everything, every sentence you say reported that, reported that. It's so boring lah. So that's just a matter of variation. Yeah. Why do references must be quoted? Okay, this one is to avoid plagiarism. To give evidence that it is scientifically true. Okay, anything that is not cited means it comes from you. So that's why there's no citation. So in other words, anything that you read, you get from whatever sources, it should be cited. Yeah. So when it is cited, okay, whenever you say the points that certain points, yeah, it's come from this source, so it gives evidence that it is, it comes from legit sources. That's what is meant by here. Yeah, because in science we need something that is valid, something that is not ambiguous, something that is reliable, the information. Yeah. Okay. Be used by other research to plan to repeat continued research. Okay. So whenever you read an article, you see some of the references, right? You might want to look for that articles as well. So this is what is meant by that. Can be used by other researchers for their references, for the future references. Create a network. Okay. So you know that who work on this. I mean, this is for independent researcher. Once you develop your research in the future, you know from your reading who are those that work in that particular area. Okay. How to summarize, tie up information from different sources. Chronological method. And okay. So chronological method might not be, it depends on your research, but it's not that really popular to be used. Means that you have lots of articles. How you want to write it? That's the meaning of this section actually. Chronological method is you go from the earliest research to the recent. But I don't think so. This is relevant in all cases. Normally in biotech, you don't have to go through this method unless it depends lah. But normally we don't go for chronological all the way lah. So this one is more for, I don't know, maybe it depends on, yeah. But that is one of the ways, yeah, from the earliest to the latest. But the more common way is summarizing an integrative method. Okay, this one is like you go, like as I said first, you go by subchapters, and in that subchapters you just go for points that what points you're looking at. Okay, so you just have to summarize based on the points. Yeah? Summarizing an integrative method. Okay, another way how you can write or how you can gather the information, because literature review is about gathering the information. Yeah, it means that you combine the information from different articles. You can write in sentences, which are the most common way and the needed way. But another way is also for certain information, not everything. For certain information, you can put in the form of table. For example, like this. This is what we call tabulated method. Maybe you want to emphasize on certain important points. Not everything, as I said, not everything. For example, if let's say latest application, that one can be in the form of table. You can say table 1 summarizes the applications of lay cases in the industrial sector. So they are for food industry, for wastewater industry, and so on. Okay, so you can put it in the form of table. And the way how you construct the table, it depends on the points that you are highlighting. Yeah, maybe that benefits like this. And you should also put the references. So that's how people know that this point comes from what source. Okay. Materials and methods. The only difference between this method, this chapter with the proposal is the tense. Tense. So just now, the literature review, you have to use past tense for both proposal and thesis, because those refer to those things that that already reported. Unless the points are scientific facts. For example, that is still valid. That's still valid. I don't have any specific examples, but if let's say it's something to do with, for example, the mechanism, mechanism is still valid. So you should mention it in present tense. But the way how you say, maybe like just now, Nordin et al. Reported, that the word reported should be past tense, that one, because of you want to say that this person has reported. Okay, but in terms of the points of the facts, if let's say it is still valid, it should be stated in present tense. Okay, I'll give an example if I found any. Okay, for the materials and methods, for thesis, it should be past tense. This one is for research proposal, research thesis. Okay. One of the common mistakes done by students, they use the methods from their proposals and they just use it for their thesis, which means that they don't change the tense. So that is not correct. So the things that you can use the information, but you just have to change the tense, whatever you have written in the proposal. Okay, I think I have elaborated this in the previous module, so I just go through briefly. Okay, this is how you write the methods. For example, normally the first section should be microorganism or organism, because for biotech is normally we deal with organism, so that's the first section to be stated. And then the materials, the materials are not really compulsory to be mentioned, to list down everything, because actually the materials will be included in all the methods that you mentioned. So this chapter is called materials and method. It doesn't mean that you should list materials first and then methods after. No, because the two things actually are combined. For example, if you describe certain method, okay, in that method, you actually will mention about the materials used, like for example, Bradford reagent. That is the material. Okay, so don't get confused with the name of the chapter. Okay. In the materials and method, also you can also include figures. Okay, maybe if you do the research later in the lab and you want to snap a picture about your setup, experimental setup level. So you can snap a picture like this. This is a picture that I snapped when I was doing my PhD. And you have to label it, and you have to mention this is what. Okay, this is I'm showing the setup for this thing micro-24 rector. This is my experiment last time. So you can also snap pictures and put it in your materials and method, but provided that the picture is important, it's not something that is just like the picture of chemicals, yang tu tak payah lah. But this one is important, the setup. Normally it's the setup or something related to the general view of your experiment. Okay. Right. The next chapter is results. Okay. For the results also, you can divide it into subchapter. Divide into subchapters. Because if not, you will have everything in mass. Yeah? So because your result will be a lot, right? So you should divide it in order to make it more organized. Yeah? So let's say the results are in chapter 4. So you should put 4.1 as what, 4.2 as what. Okay. So what else? This is how I write the subchapters. Yeah? Effects of starch concentration on yeast growth. Yeah? It means on yeast growth first, and then after that on the ethanol production. Yeah? So it depends on your research lah, how you divide it. I cannot tell how, but it depends on your research. Okay, in the result chapter is where you put the tables and figures a lot too. Tables and figures. So because you present your results in the form of table or figures like graph. Yeah? So what you have, what you should have in those things, you should have what we call caption. Caption is the one that describes the information of the tables or figures. Okay. For example, do we have any here? For example, this is for figure. So this figure I produced by myself. Okay, so this is the caption. This is the caption. For figure, the caption should be written below the figure. Okay, so I said here comparison of hashes between standard shape class and so on. Right, so that's caption. But for tables, for the table, the caption should be on top of the table. So that's the difference. Okay, not below. The table caption should be on top. Okay, so this one I put here. So the caption should be written in a way that describe what the table is. Okay. Right, let's go back to this one. Right. So result chapter is a section where you present the results. So there is a difference, results and discussion. So results means you just say like this. Our result, the results showed that you describe about the graph, what happened, for example, what happened in the graph, right? But discussion is when you explain or when you try to discuss in terms of what are the possible reasons why the results are like that. Okay, so one of the mistakes done by students is that although let's say they have results and discussion chapter, but they just present the results, but they don't discuss the results. So means that the discussion part is not there. That is the common mistakes. Okay, so that's why you have to know what is meant by results and what is meant by discussion. Okay, let me show you example of what is meant by results alone. If I want to show back my thesis over here, okay, let's have a look here. Okay, so if you see here, actually figure 3.7 is to show this figure. Okay, yeah, another thing is about figures and tables. It should be introduced in the text. Although you put it in the text, in between the text, like this one, I put it here, figure 3.7. But the paragraph before that, it should mention about it. You cannot just insert the figures without telling the existence of the figures. That's another thing. So this one here, figure 3.7 compares the kinetics of E. coli in the control and they are using both types of media. Okay, this sentence is very important in order to let the readers know the existence of this figure. Okay, now, so this is results. It is clearly shown that cell growth was more rapid using a complex medium, with being 1.4 times greater than the indefined medium. Okay, so the cell growth was found to correspond directly with the glycerol consumption, right? So this is actually explaining the graph. Right? Okay, the depletion in the, okay. For example, up to here, this is results. It's not discussion yet. Okay. So where is the results? Where is the discussion? Okay, so for example here, the presence of yeast extract in the complex medium is believed to be responsible for the improved growth compared to the defined medium. Okay, this is actually the point that you start to discuss. Actually, it should be longer than this. Yeah. So this is to show to you that the results, of course, you have to introduce it. You have to describe, yeah, introduce, and then describe. Okay, means that you just elaborate, you just describe how what is the important finding of whatever the figures that you have. But when you say discussion is, you try to relate the possible reasons, and also you can relate with other words. Okay, so I want to emphasize on that here. Right, so that is about results. Discussion is a section where the author will need to explain the results of his or her project. Okay, so please don't forget the element of discussion. Discussion should be possible reasons of the results by relating the science behind it, yeah, what's the mechanism, for example, and also you can relate with other words, other previous words, yeah. So maybe you got like lacase production using your strain, you got certain amount of production, but how about other words? So that is how you discuss it, yeah? And you can say that the differences could be because of different media or different feedstock or different organism, something like that. Okay. Right. Okay, that's discussion. I'll give an example of FYP thesis later for you to see how the thesis should be written. Okay. Conclusions and future works. Okay, so the 6th chapter is conclusion and future works. Okay, so it is divided into 2 sections. So 6.1, let's say if it is 6th chapter, 6.1 is conclusion, and 6.2 you put it future works or future recommendation. Okay, conclusion should be what? Should be a section that conclude or summarize the results, the important findings. It's not everything, it's not just mention all the results, but you just highlight the important, the most significant findings. Okay, so that is the conclusion section. And for FYP, I can say that 1 or 2 pages for conclusion is enough, as long as you have the points, as long as it is concisely written. Right, so that is conclusion. You should actually refer back to your objective. Like if let's say before this, for the proposal, it is expected outcome section that you should relate to the objective, right? But for the thesis, it is the conclusion chapter that you have to relate back to your objectives, whether or not you answer or achieve the objective. Okay. So refer objective, it should be tallied. Okay. Future work. Okay, so after conclusion, 6.2 is another section whereby you may suggest improvement or future works that can be continued from your research. Because in research, there is never an ending point of whatever the things to be studied. So after this, let's say you have studied this, what should be studied next? So you should include it in this section. Is the section where you reflect actually. Okay, future works and also improvement. Let's say in your work, you have done this, but perhaps the results might not be that really good, okay, but you don't have time to do again. So you can improve. You can say that the improvement that should be done in future work, you can maybe use certain methods. So it's just about suggestion. You don't have to worry about whether or not it's gonna be 100% correct. There's nothing 100% accurate in research, but it can serve as your suggestion. Yeah? So it's not that really, you don't have to be so afraid to suggest things, as long as it is not that really totally unpractical, as long as it is within the scope of the research, it's fine. Okay. All right. References, the same thing. Okay. Should be at least a section that lists down all the references that you use, yeah, by using the right format. Yeah, for FYP is Harvard referencing. Please don't refer to APA. Yeah, it's not for FYP. So it's for a Harvard referencing system. Okay, and for referencing, there is also a tips and tricks. You can use Mendeley. You know Mendeley? It's a software. So there are actually so many software for helping us to improve writing. The Grammarly, Anything, rephrasing tools. I don't introduce here, but you can look for it. Yeah. Actually, I don't use rephrasing tools, to be honest, because I know the existence about it, and even for my when I write my PhD thesis, I write everything by my own, because what I said just now is that the basic of writing is very important. The basics, you know, that your basics, your English basic is very important. So when you have that basics, actually you don't need to rely on rephrasing software, rephrasing tools. Grammarly might still be needed. Sometimes you might not aware about certain words, and Grammarly will remind you. That's fine. But I just use Grammarly. I don't use rephrasing software. But you can use it. You can use it, but it's not to say that it's not correct. But that's my personal experience, because I rely on my own skill to write, because I feel that I'm quite confident to write good sentences. So I don't rely on certain software to construct my sentence. But I do look for vocabularies like synonyms. I do Google, like for example, I want to replace certain words. I might not able to think. Yeah, I will Google for it. But rephrasing tool, I don't use it. Yeah, so I construct everything by my own. But there are actually those tools like nowadays it's much easier because there are so many applications that are created for writers. Yeah, so you have to make full use of it. Yeah, Mendeley is one of them. Mendeley and not, but EndNote is not free. That's why normally people use Mendeley. Mendeley is the referencing software. Okay, so what this software does, you install it to your computer, and then you have to put all the articles, the list of articles in the software, in the library, we call it. So whenever you cite, yeah, you just write maybe Smith et al. 2020, and provided that the Mendeley has already the article in the library, so the moment you write the bibliography, you just put like insert bibliography and it will list down everything. So that's the beauty of it. So it's a software that helps the referencing line. Instead of you typing one by one, you can still type it, it's not wrong, but it takes time. Those things can be done in just few seconds or few minutes. But if you do it manually, you might spend 1 or 2 hours to type the things manually. So it's a bit not really a smart way. So Mendeley helps you to do the referencings in a smarter way. Okay, you can look for it, Mendeley software, install, right? I will provide the the written tutorial for using Mendeley on Elite Letter. You can look for it. I don't have time to introduce how to use Mendeley. You can refer to the outline later. All right, so that's it for Module 7. So in short, what we have covered, some of the things are quite similar with proposal, so that's why I don't explain it. And I want to save my voice. I have another class and I'm fasting. Yeah, it's a bit tricky in fasting month to give lecture. So that's why you can see that I'm a bit not really energetic this time. Sorry for that. Okay. But the main points, yeah, for this module, you should know that thesis is to be prepared after you conduct a research, after you conduct your FYP, right? And it should have all of these points. Yeah, some of the things are similar to the proposal, but some are not. And even some of the sections are similar, but the way how you present it is not similar. Yeah, for example, materials and methods, you have to change the tense. Yeah, and also for abstract. Abstract is also not similar, right? So the proposal has different components, a little bit different, like expected outcomes, but for the thesis, it has the results instead of the expected outcomes, and also the conclusion. Okay, but the rest of it are quite similar to the points that you have read in Module 6. Okay. Okay, any question? So for the attendance, I will create an activity and you have to participate in that activity. It's not that really long activity, it's just like maybe 1 or 2 questions just to help you to revise today's topic. Okay, so I'll take the participation as your attendance. So you don't have to worry about the manual attendance. Okay. All right, so with that, that's the end of today's lecture. Thank you very much for listening. It's already 2 hours. Sorry for not having the break. I don't have, I want to speed up the lecture. So I have to save some time. After this, I have another lecture. Okay. Anything you want to ask? Anything unclear about the thesis writing or proposal writing? Anything you want to ask about Turnitin, the similarity, or the whatever, the citation maybe? Or rephrasing? Any question on rephrasing still? No? Okay, that's the end of today's lecture. Okay, thank you very much again. Have a nice day. Stay safe. Right. I'll see you guys next week. Okay, another thing. I'll put the proposal titles or the instruction for the proposal writing. Okay, remember that for this course you have to write a proposal, right? You have to write the proposal. You have to write a proposal, and also you have to present it later. Yeah, I will put, so the proposal carries 20% the writing, yeah, 20%, and also the oral presentation is 20%. So means that you have to present the proposal that you write. Okay, so yeah, so the proposal carries 20%. So I'll put the instruction for that, and you can start writing, or you can start doing it, discuss in your group, because it's a group task. Okay, and that is, the proposal is actually the same document that you have to prepare next semester for FYP. So I hope that you focus on it, yeah, learn how to prepare it correctly. Yeah, that will be very helpful for your FYP later. And the reason why we create those tasks in this course is to prepare you for the FYP next semester. Okay, that's it. Yeah, I put the instruction and also the attendance activity on eLib. Yeah, right. So please check later. Okay, so let's disperse here. Yeah, have a nice day, everyone. Yeah, bye. Yeah, thanks for the attention. All right, yeah, you too. Welcome.
Thank you, Doctor.
Welcome.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah, welcome.